Welcome to Talking WoW, the podcast where we talk about World of Warcraft, believe it or not. My name is Tom, and today we are going to be talking about what we want announced at BlizzCon 2023. To do that, we have a very special guest from across the pond. It's our good friend and somebody we used to podcast with, and now we are podcasting with them again, just for this episode. It's Dusty. Hey, Dusty.
Hello, guys. I am so excited to be here. I'm so thankful that you guys allowed me to come on. Super excited.
We're so excited to talk to you. And Dusty is a tech tutorial content creator and, well, a Warcraft fan as well. If you weren't a Warcraft fan, I don't know what you would be doing here, but we are so happy to get a peek into what you might want announced at BlizzCon. And also here, it's the co-host. It's Marty. Hey, Marty.
Hello. We want more Dragonflight. The end.
We want more Dragonflight. I mean, maybe that is a good place to start because BlizzCon is coming up. And I think probably the big thing about World of Warcraft at BlizzCon, which we haven't had a BlizzCon since they announced, what was that expansion called? Shadowlands?
What expansion? What?
Usually we get an expansion announcement. And I think this BlizzCon, there's been a bit of a question mark over this because we're only at 10.2 in World of Warcraft. Are we ready for an expansion announcement? Is that where we are going? Let's start with Dusty and just see where this goes.
Yeah, I would love to get, with Marty rating like he does, I'm very curious about his opinion on us going from 10.2 or maybe 10.2.7 or whatever it would be straight to 11.0. I do absolutely think all of us know we're going to get an expansion announcement here in November. It's one of the most exciting times for me. I love it. I remember back in the day sitting in my dorm room watching BlizzCon when they were talking about, I can still see my old just grimy dorm room at college when they were talking and announcing Wrath of the Lich King and them going over. Do you guys remember the overhead shots they would do of the zones when they would talk about the zones and they would do the overhead shots of the new mobs? And I remember when they showed Grizzly Hill and they showed some of these places in Wrath, I was just amazed. I mean, I was so into it. I mean, I'm still into it now, obviously, but back then, I mean, I had more time. And so I was just eating up every word they said. And so I really hope we get a kind of a harken back to that of where they do kind of an overview of the zones. And I understand a lot of people think they're going to do a lot of quality of life stuff and repurposing new, old assets and making them new and improving them. And I hope they do that. People don't realize that throughout WoW's life cycle, every expansion, they're either improving the water, they're improving the camera, they're improving the way smoke looks, or they're doing these little things that just make WoW in general as a whole look better and have a better experience. So for me, I'm okay with it going from 10.2.7 to right to 11.0. But Marty, what do you think about that? As far as are you ready for it, or would you rather just do more Dragonflight?
I think currently I would rather do more Dragonflight. I think it's been such a good expansion, and sadly I do agree that I think we'll get an announcement. Oh, I mean, it doesn't need to be sadly, but I do think that we'll get an expansion announcement. But I do feel like there was something that felt a little bit short. Or cut short or something like that in Dragonflight, and I would have loved to see it dragged out a little bit more overall. So yes, I would like more Dragonflight. It's been an awesome expansion so far.
I'm just imagining though the new expansion gets announced, World of Warcraft, insert expansion name here, and just they list the headlining features, and it's just like new, improved water, better smoke, and Dusty will be like, yes. Yes.
But you guys get my point, right? Like they, along with all of the features of every expansion, even back as far as Cataclysm and beyond and MOP, they would do these little things that went unnoticed. Like they would do, the lighting would be different. Or even in Shadowlands, they had a lot of quality of life things for the old world that really made WoW as a whole, the experience better. But I'm with you, Tom. I don't think I'd be excited, but I hope they throw some of that stuff some of that stuff in there. By the way, I love Dragonflight. It ranks up there with, obviously Wrath is probably my favorite, but Dragonflight and Legion and Wrath and those are some of the expansions. So Dragonflight to me has been great as a collector, as a person who does more casual content. Dragonflight, this week even I've gone back to don't crucify me here. I've gone back to Shadowlands and I've done some collecting in Zereth Mortis. I don't know about you guys. I didn't get all the mounts there, so I've been back there this past week, and it's been some easy kind of really laid back content to do, and I'm kind of increasing my mount total. So
we will censor that part out, but no.
Okay,
you gotta do what you enjoy, right? You gotta do what you enjoy.
I will say though that for all the zones to go back to, I think that was a good one. I think that patch as well was one of the highlights of Shadowlands anyway. So you
agreed.
Yeah, you're
as much as these two want to look back, I'm going to have to divert our attention forward to the future, and we're talking about this hypothetical expansion and something that I'm interested about, because I think the general consensus here is Dragonflight is a good expansion. They've done a lot of good things in here. And something that's interesting with what comes, after the good expansion is the fact that it's been planned probably for a long time, probably even before a lot of the reaction of Dragonflight happened. So it will be interesting to see what carries forward and what continues, what they say, well, that really worked in Dragonflight. Let's, keep that going. I'm thinking dragon riding, dragon races and things like that. But I suppose that brings us to the question of where the heck are we going next then, Dusty? If there is going to be an expansion announcement, where are we going? And what's the name of the expansion? Can you tell us?
So, like you guys, I probably consume way too much of this hypothetical content. We mentioned someone off air, Mr. GM does a great job of kind of curating these kind of theoretical expansions from MMO Champion and places like that. One of the things that really scares me is that maybe it would be good, but the thought of having an expansion underwater or in water really gives me hesitation. I don't know if you guys remember Vashir, the zone.
But it's going to be high definition water, Dusty.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Listen, I've dabbled in Final Fantasy 14, and there is a whole couple of zones in one of their expansions where you're underwater, and the way that they did the tech is that you had to go to the outside of the bubble and then go. It was misery. I was I almost quit. I was this is so bad. So I hope that if WoW does that, I hope if we are going under the sea, a lot of the theories is that it's going to be more kind of even deeper than that. It's going to be in caverns and kind of under the earth or whatever it is. I'm all about that. Let's go. Probably my favorite aspect of WoW is the exploration of the new zones. I don't know about you guys, but when I get into a new zone, I love experiencing all the nooks and crannies, and that's why Dragonflight is so cool, because it's so vertical because of the way dragon riding is. So there's these mountaintops, and then there's the caverns and caves, and I love exploring all of that. So I don't really have an expansion name for you, but I do certainly believe that dragon riding has to be moved forward. I think it has to be one of the features that they move forward. My only thought on that, and I'd love to get your guys' opinion on this, I'm a collector, and so I have a ton of mounts, and there's only going to be certain ones that are able to be applicable to dragon riding. So there are some of my favorite mounts of all time that I've worked really hard to get that are not going to have that super fast ability to do dragon riding. So I just hope there's a way down the line where they figure out a way to do it. I'm not sure if that's even possible. But I also think that having regular flying in Dragonland in Dragonflight is a good idea, because when you're a collector, having to worry about getting your vigor up and back and everything, there's times when I just want to just kind of casually, just lazily go from one point to the next. So I do understand that. So hopefully that answered your question. I've got so many other things that I want to say, so I'm trying not to kind of cannibalize the conversation.
But you are in luck. One of the announcements for this next expansion will be that a lot of the old mounts will be dragonflying mounts. So there you go.
Okay, I'll take it.
Dusty's already happy, Dusty's easily pleased here. I think if we've already ticked a a box there. But what about you, Marty? Have you been like reading into the leaks of what the next expansion could be? Do you have your own ideas what it could be? Because I think it's quite hard actually when you have all these leaks and ideas. I'm finding it very hard to even formulate my own idea of what the expansion is going to be. So sometimes it just feels easier to say what everyone else is saying and then be totally wrong.
I have seen a few of the leaks, but I actually haven't delved too much into it because I think I want to try and I think it's like my new thing is trying to stay away from content as much as possible so I can, experience it for the first time in game and also with BlizzCon, stuff like that. But there is some theories that we're going to go to the other side of Azeroth because apparently we only been on like one side of it and there's a whole other side of it as well, where the land masses and places and maybe. So that is definitely one of but I think that's like one of those ideas that have been floating around even back since probably Wrath of the Lich King, that there is, a backside to Azeroth.
The dark side of Azeroth. That's your expansion name there, Dusty.
There you go.
I love it.
Well, yeah, didn't they like shift everything to the east as well to make this space on the map in the west? And I think everything is pointing to a western continent. And I don't know, sometimes I just get the feeling that we are being baited into like
the Western Kingdom. Is that what it's called?
Could be. I mean, that's a great name for it, Western Kingdoms. But I feel like we're being like led down this path of like, yeah, we're going to move the map a little bit over here. We've created this big space and you think it's going to be here. And then boom, it's somewhere totally different. Like I think Shadowlands announcement really surprised everyone of like, oh, we're going upstairs, and I would just be like, well, I don't know. I feel like one thing I do know, I feel like the threat of Iridocron is not going to be fully dealt with in Dragonflight. I think they are going to continue that in the next expansion. It feels like to wrap that up right now after what I would say has been a story at a much slower pace, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing in Dragonflight. It's slowed right down, but it's had a chance to flesh out some characters and flesh out some narratives. But we haven't really had that, Michael Bay moment where it's like, whoa, it's all going down here. And maybe we get that at the end of 10.2. Maybe we get that, in the pre-patch or something like that. But it feels like probably the bigger threat comes after Dragonflight, and bringing Iridocron over into that, I think would make sense. How do you feel about that, Dusty?
It's interesting that you say that, because I agree with you that it has been slower as far as that goes. But the cadence of one of my favorite things about Dragonflight so far is just how quickly we're getting stuff released, right? As soon as a patch comes out, the next one is automatically almost on the PTR. So you are right in that the story has kind of been slower, but I feel like because of the fast cadence, it's had more time to be fleshed out. Like there has been, I don't know about you guys, and we're obviously talking about BlizzCon and what's going to be announced, but one of my favorite things about Dragonflight is, I don't know if you guys did much of the side stories in Dragonflight when you were questing through, but there's some really cool side stories that have been able to be fleshed out because they're allowed to do that. Obviously, the team is getting bigger and larger. For people listening to this, if you don't know, the WoW team is about as big as it's ever been. So they have more people working on these assets and things. But I'm with you, Tom. I would love to see Iridocron. Like, I would love to see that story kind of possibly carry over, kind of like Ashara did back in the day, kind of between kind of how she went through her arc and then back. I would love to see, and also his character and voice actor are just, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but they're so good. I mean, I love the scenes that have him in it. He feels like a true, in comparison to the Jailer, okay, which is a
somebody
a
had
meme.
to say it.
Okay, it's a meme at this point. It's so much better. But I want to flip this on its head and ask you guys, if I'm allowed to do that, what would be one feature in this expansion that would have you just like ready to go? I mean, you're obviously going to play, but what would be like your top one or two features that you would have in a new expansion that would make you more excited than ever?
I mean, a new feature or a carryover from?
So I would say new, because it's more fun, right? Like we already. I mean, I know what mine is, but
a new feature. that would have me ready to go. Cross region.
Okay, there we go.
Gameplay that I can play with you, Dusty. We spoke.
That's right.
Right before we started recording. That would be something I'd be like, yeah, I'm fine. Let's just go. That's because that's something we've been wanting for a long time, and because of podcasting, we've gotten a lot of friends on the other side of the pond as well, and having to have to manage 2 different accounts is just it's not fun. So I would love that.
He can carry my sorry butt through some mythics or a raid of some sort. Yeah, absolutely.
I really want that as well, but I think realistically we're not going to get it. Sorry, Marty. But something I really want is this focus on making our gameplay less about our character and more about our account. So
now you're talking my language.
A bigger sort of revamp on everything, how it works, the achievement system. They've overhauled it. They've made as much of it account-wide as possible. I want some sort of account-wide banking system, account-wide reputation. They've just really overhauled that, and suddenly now this is a game where it's like, okay, we know you have your characters and you're invested in them, but also that those old characters that you really want to play, now you can play them and you feel like you're making actually progression on your account. And also we know some people don't want this, so it's something you're going to opt into if you want to make this more of a an account thing and not just a character thing, because there's so many like classes and specs, and we all just sometimes just get a different vibe of what we want to do. Sometimes we want to do a bit of healing maybe, or we want to play a range class or a melee class, and
the
game is
just healing
for Marty.
But the way the game is set up, it's very much, and it's got better, but it's very much like, well, we all have that one character that we've put the most amount of time in, and we almost feel bad when we're cheating on them. We're going to play that other character, and as someone that pretty much went from the Burning Crusade to Dragonflight without rolling an ult because I was just terrified of putting any other time into any other character, this expansion I've actually started to level a few more characters up, and it's like, oh, there's so much more here when you look at it like that, and actually it really helps to keep the game fresh. So my big thing would be they are turning up that account-wide stuff to 17, and we are just losing our minds.
So if I'm able to follow that up, that's not what I was going to say, but it would be my number 2 for sure. I feel like one of the reasons why FF14 is done so well is because that really you're building your account. And the first MMO that I ever got into way back when was RuneScape, old school RuneScape. And the thing about that game is it's very old and antiquated. I get it, but it's all about your account. You're growing your account level. You're growing all your quests are done on one tune. Now I don't want that. I still want the ability to diversify and have my different races and alts and things like that. But man, it would be so nice if I grinded a rep, an old school rep in Mist of Pandaria and on my main, but then I got on another gear type like a clothy and had the ability to carry that rep over to be able to purchase and have these shared currencies to be able to say, I want to purchase this recipe. Now, I know I am a very weird case because I love collecting old recipes and old transmog. I get that, right? It may not be the mainstream thing, but
I don't think that's a weird case. I think there's lots of those players.
Just don't make me, right, Marty? Don't make me have to grind that rep 4 times because I want to get all the transmog for all the different gear sets, right? I just feel like it needs to be more account-wide. Reputation, honestly, it's even a visual thing to me, right, Tom? Like if I get on my Demon Hunter and I have all the Shadowlands reputations, I know I'm a nutcase. I have all of them all the way maxed out. And then I get on my Hunter and I have to go in that reputation tab and I see these bars not filled up. That bothers me, Tom.
Well,
here we go.
I've got a short-term solution for you.
Oh, crap.
And if this doesn't get announced at BlizzCon, you can download an add-on called Pretty Reps. Reps.
Oh, gosh, I gotta
basically
type that out.
You'll get an extra tab for your reputation, and if you log into all your characters, then on the first tab it will just show you the reputation with the maximum amount. So you will be able to go in there on any character and you open up your reputation, you go, oh, there's my Shadowlands rep, and it's all full to exalted. And if you highlight over it, it'll say, this was earned by this character. And it's just a nice thing when you have a lot of alts. It's just a visually appealing thing. It doesn't change anything.
But don't we know in our hearts where that bar should be?
It's a quick fix. Fix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that the things that Tom and I just mentioned, do you think, I mean, I'm with Tom about the cross realm stuff. Like, I want to believe that could happen with what Marty recommended, but I truly believe that if Warcraft is to go on for another 4 or 5 expansions, which I think they want for it too, this has to happen because there's becoming so much old content, and we're seeing it with like the time walking stuff that they're doing right now of going back and doing time walking raids and things like that. I want to have a hope that there's possibility that this could happen.
I mean, we've mentioned so many different other games that did similar things that we want, and I think we need to finish that Banco card where they're doing it in Star Wars: The Old Republic, and it works so well over there with the shared reputations and it's about the account, it's about your little family of alts that you're playing, and we want that. We really, really want that, and we wanted that for a long time. And all the things that you mentioned where you said, maybe you are the weird one out here, I really don't think you are. I actually think the largest, one of the larger, part of the player base is the exact same way that, they have an army of alts as well, and they love, collecting and doing all these things. So, I could see this happen, and I really do hope this will happen sooner rather than later.
And I think just to end this part of the discussion is, there could be the argument of, well, if you take away some of the grinds, then people are going to run out of things to do quicker. I think it will have the opposite effect, that it basically unlocks people the ability to play what they want when they want, and suddenly they're probably doing more content than they ever are, because they're like, well, hey, today I want to jump on and play my druid, and tomorrow I'm going to go play my warrior or something like that. It's just suddenly you don't have those limitations of what you want to play and when you want to play. And I think it just opens up the game so much more. And suddenly you just, it's just play what you want, when you want, and you're not going to be missing out for doing that.
If it becomes account-wide, like reps and stuff, I would 100% go back, and because I know that I have a few reps here and there that I haven't maxed out, but I'm also right now like, what's the point? Because it's like one character that I don't really play that much any longer anyway, so what's the point? Whereas that would open it up for me.
Just in conclusion, if it went account wide, I know it would be reason for me to have more game time. Just like you said, Tom, if I knew I could go back and get those transmogs from, like, right now, just off the top of my head, I can think of, I mean, I don't know if you guys went back and did any of the Legion class hall stuff on alts that you've leveled up. It is absolutely miserable because of the barrier to entry of, like, you got to go through, you got to do a whole bunch of stuff in Suramar, and then you got to do this and this, and you got to get the rep to a certain... If they could just clear all that up and clean it up, even if they didn't do it for Legion, even if it was, say, the next expansion onward, I would love that. I mean, I'd love for them to backdate it, but man, being able to go back and get those class mounts for all those classes that I haven't, gone through. I'm working on the Shaman one, or, it's been like a year I've been working on it, but I've been working on it. So before we got to close out, I do want to say mine. For me, the feature that I would love to see, and I know everyone is going to say it, whatever, I don't care, is player housing. Done the right way. Marty, how much cooler would it be if you were doing a raid and alongside the Jaina mount that is super cool, you could also get this really rare piece for your house of, like, the jailer's head in your house, and it glows, and like all these, like, it creates a new type of drop that people are wanting. If what me and Marty think is true, that there are a bunch of players like me who love collecting stuff, you've already got over 1,000 mounts in the game. You've already got pets, and I love pets, but some people don't. You've already got transmog. Now you're adding just another thing that people will go for. And man, if I could put a house, like a tree house in Grizzly Hills, and just like deck it out with what I wanted, come on. Is that, I mean, I
just want to jump in there because I want this house, and I want, to be able to get like a chair for it, and I can like display my my transmogs all on it as well. And, it'd be beautiful. A shirt chair, one might say. What about you, Marty? Player housing?
I mean, I'm on board for player housing. I think that there were some good things with the garrison that they, lessons that they could learn from over there, and also other games do have it. So where it works quite well. So yeah, I don't know why Blizzard are so much against it. As Dusty is saying, if done correctly, then it could be a really, really good system. So and that transmog stands, I would love to have those. I think there was I think there was something in Legion in the class hall where if you collected the tier sets from that expansion, then they would actually be in your order halls, if I remember correctly. How cool would it be if you could choose yourself what your saved ones, you could put them on those stands, for instance? That would be so cool.
But hear me out, and I'm not going to say anything else about this. What if you would have another Hearthstone, okay, that would go to your house, right? So you'd have a Hearthstone, but you would have to go back to old world stuff, which would make old world content relevant again. And by doing quest lines or doing achievements or doing things, you could unlock portals that would be in your house to allow us as collectors quicker access to old world content. So we have to put in the time and effort, but then we get a portal that takes us to Borean Tundra. And then we do some stuff in BC, and we get a portal that takes us to Shatrath, or whatever it may be. And then we could even go as far as to say, if we complete certain things even higher on up, we could unlock certain NPCs that could walk around or hang out with us in
your old characters just walking around there.
That's another one. Yeah. That's it. I'm not going to say anything else. I think my tinfoil hat prediction is this coming expansion that's going to get announced, here in a couple days, will not have player housing. My prediction is the next one is probably when we see it. I don't think we see it this soon.
You're just a year ahead there, Dusty. And I really love how we are almost very, easily pleased in a way. It's like, we don't care if the next expansion is Murlocs and Candyland. Just give us these. We don't care about the story. It's like, give us these things and we will be very, very happy. I suppose just to finish up, we would be remiss not to mention anything about Classic. And I don't know if you've been playing Classic Warcraft, Dusty, but me and Marty have been dabbling in the hardcore version of that. And I suppose the talk of the town is that, are we going to get something to do with Classic? And is it going to be Classic Plus? Or are we going to be getting a announcement that we are venturing to a different timeline in the Classic sphere, Dusty?
So do you guys think we're going to get the old school RuneScapification of Classic, where it's basically what they're calling Classic Plus? Now, I have played Classic. I haven't played Hardcore. I don't have a max level tune. I feel like the time requirement for Classic as a father, there's other things that I want to do in retail to where I just can't. I'd love to if I had time. But if they start doing this whole thing where they start adding new stories in old zones, or they start doing these things where it's Classic Plus, Marty, could they even do seasons, kind of like other games do, where, season one would be, there would be like these different portals popping up in the old world zones where there'd be new mobs, or I don't know. Like, what are your thoughts? Do we see a Classic Plus at BlizzCon?
I'm having a hard time seeing them adding new content, and for the reason that Tom has mentioned a lot of time when we're doing live streams, and that by the simple purpose that you would 100% split some player base, all of us sort of where, or you would have a player base that wants to play both sides, and that's a lot of MMO to play. You can only really play one MMO, in my opinion. Having to keep up with content like that, because I would be interested in that, but having to both play retail and Classic on the side, that would be too much for me, and I think that would be too much for a lot of people. And I'm one of those people that actually have a lot of time to game. I'm not a father like you. I don't have those type of commitments, and even I'm feeling the struggle with keeping up sometimes, But seasons, I could totally see something along those lines, and that could be seasons for Classic. It could be seasons for Hardcore. I think there's a very big opportunity to do something with hardcore, actually, because it seemed like people really, really enjoyed that. So some kind of season with some kind of affixes or something like that, I think could work. But I'm not really sure when it comes to Classic. I'm really not sure what they're going to announce, because I don't feel like Cataclysm Classic would be something, because Cataclysm is available in retail right now, but everything else before that isn't, and that's why Classic is so interesting, because it's actually not in retail currently.
So that was my only point, is that if they release like Cataclysm Classic, I mean, man, I don't think they're going to have the response that they've had with BC and Wrath. I agree completely, but I do think that I agree with splitting the player base, but I just look at, again, what RuneScape has done with RuneScape 3 and old school RuneScape. They're still releasing new skills for old school RuneScape. So having the ability to implement new content for the people who want it, I believe that they're making too much money with the hardcore and classic to let it die. I think they've got something up their sleeve, and I'm even going to predict that the classic announcement is going to be just as popular or as sought after as even the retail stuff, because those people are just that fan base is rabid. I mean, they want that stuff, so
very, very sensible answers there. I'm going to leave you with a thought just to blow your minds as we wrap this up. We're going to solve all our issues in one swoop, because we're going to introduce the player housing that Dusty suggested. We're also going to go ahead and make Classic Plus, where we're going on an alternative timeline. And when you log into retail, you will do a short quest line with Chromie, where then you will unlock a portal, which then takes you through time to the end game of Classic Plus, or just before the end of Classic, where you will start the Classic Plus quest lines. And that stops you from having to level up a Classic character. And then you'll be able to do all those quest lines on your, character that's traveled through time. And then you'll be able to return to the current timeline in retail, and you'll still be able to get involved in all those things as well. Very timey-wimey Doctor Who stuff there that absolutely will never happen. But who knows? Stranger things.
So we get everything, the account-wide, the everything. Okay.
We bring together the two timelines with a portal, and everyone is very, very happy. The end. Thank you very much, Dusty, for being here. We could obviously talk and come up with wacky ideas and sensible ideas for what is in store for us with the future of Warcraft and what possibly could be announced, at BlizzCon. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your insights, what you're feeling about the game. We really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. This has been an absolute blast. I just touched the surface of some thoughts that I've had. So we'll definitely, hopefully, can do this again at some point, and we can do it again.
Certainly will. I've been Tom. That's been Marty. That's been Dusty. And we've been talking WoW.
Thanks for tuning in, champion. Did you enjoy this episode of Talking WoW? If so, why not drop a review on your podcast catcher of choice, or leave us a comment. You can find Talking WoW on Twitter or YouTube over at Talking WoW. Hope to see you again soon.